Get your headlines, get your money. Don't worry, I'm not going to do that every day. Welcome into the voice of college football. Yes, college football headlines with me each and every day. Appreciate you stopping by. Leave in the comments section down below two things. Number one, what source you would like me to use as a national source of our headlines look each and every day. Number two, let me know if you would like this to be a live stream or not. Regardless, it's going to be a nice tight show in regards to looking at the headlines of college football. But if it warrants it, we will go on and we will explore what's going on that day in the world of college football and look at the headlines via 1975, 85, 2005. You know, back in the day when you got your morning paper, that's the feel, that's the aim right here. Look at the headlines, check them out for the very first time, fresh and off the newsstand. Let's go. We go to ESPN and the Associated Press for this one. Nick Saban and Urban Meyer are up for election for the College Football Hall of Fame for the first time. The ballot for the Hall of Fame class to be announced in January was released by the National Football Foundation on Monday. It includes 77 players and 9 coaches. So you may want to look at your favorite team and see what players have been nominated and will be on the ballot. 101 players and 34 coaches from the divisional ranks, which include the championship subdivision, meaning the FCS, and Division III. Among the players appearing on the ballot for the Atlanta-based Hall of Fame, of course, once at Notre Dame, for the first time, former Pitt defensive lineman and arguably the greatest defensive lineman in the history of the NFL, Aaron Donald, who just retired from the NFL after 10 seasons with the Rams. Other first-timers on the ballot include 2012 Heisman Trophy runner-up Manti Te'o from Notre Dame, 2009 Heisman winner Mark Ingram from Bama, and Bama's very first Heisman winner, former Cal wide receiver Deshaun Jackson, who had an illustrious NFL career, most notably with the Philadelphia Eagles, of course. Saban retired earlier this year after 17 seasons as Alabama coach. He won 6 national championships with the Tide, another with LSU in 2003 for a record 7 career titles. In 28 years as a college coach with Toledo, Michigan State, LSU, and Alabama, Saban's record, there you see it, 297, 71, and 1. Meyer won 3 national titles during his 17-year run as a college coach, 2 with Florida, Ohio State in 2014. Also, to be noted here, he had 2 other undefeated teams that did not receive an opportunity to win national championships with Utah in 2004 and Ohio State in 2012. Also stops at Bowling Green, and there we see with the Utes. He retired from Ohio State after the 2018 season. That team went 13-1 and won the Rose Bowl and the Big Ten Championship. Of course, Nick Saban's final team came within just an eyelash of making it to the national championship game again. And there you see Urban Meyer's sparkling record. Of course, Saban's is awesome as well. For Urban Meyer, though, 187-32. It is the greatest record in the history of modern college football post-World War II. Other players, holdovers on this year's ballot, former Virginia Tech quarterback Michael Vick, former Syracuse receiver Marvin Harrison, and the late Sean Taylor, who played defensive back for Miami, and I'm sure a list that goes on and on and on and on of deserving players and coaches. Notice the change in decor to fit our story. Nick Saban and Urban Meyer are slam dunk Hall of Famers. Saban is considered by most to be the greatest of all time. I would be in that category. Based on accomplishments, is he technically the greatest football coach of all time? There are a lot of considerations to make into that. I don't think only God could make that decision. But based on accomplishments and all the metrics and criteria, you throw it all together, and he did it at 2 different stops. Yes, the greatest of all time based on accomplishments, much like Tom Brady in the NFL. For Urban Meyer, slam dunk, greatest percentage of all time. And again, those guys are beyond reproach in regards to what they accomplished on the field. Aaron Donald, I think that name was included in the article. Not that he wasn't a great college player, but of course, what he's accomplished in the NFL shines a light on Aaron Donald, and that he just retired from the pros. It helps the collegiate ranks and the spotlight on the Hall of Fame when they can distinguish somebody who just retired from the NFL, has that shine on them right now, and so they're taking advantage of that, no doubt. All right, my 2 points about the Hall of Fame. Number one, this criteria that a coach has to have a 60% winning percentage to get into the Hall of Fame is ridiculous. It should be a guideline. Of course, you look at a coach's winning percentage. That should be first and foremost. What's the guy's record? Yes, of course, it's all about winning. However, there are considerations, conditions, context. Howard Schnellenberger only won 51% of his games. He is a Hall of Famer. I've explained it in other videos. I'll do it very briefly here. He started 2 football programs. When you start a football program, when you launch a football team, a football program, you are dealing from a huge deficit. Tom Landry, Dallas Cowboys, 1960, basically playing guys that were cashiers and factory workers against NFL players. Therefore, it took him 5 years to get going, and his record was awful. Same thing with Howard Schnellenberger. The program at Miami saved in large part by Howard Schnellenberger. Then he won a national championship just 4 years after he basically saved the program, with a lot of help, of course. So take it into context. Look at what he did at Louisville. They were basically a losing program for 7 or 8 years, and he made them one of the top 15 or 20 teams in the country. Context, people. Guidelines are good. Rules are typically, when you're talking about these such things, rules are not good. Guidelines are good. Start with the guidelines, work from there. Mike Leach also does not hit the winning percentage total of 60%. He should be in the Hall of Fame for obvious reasons. Offensive guru and offensive philosophy that changed the way we play football, and the coaches that came from the Mike Leach tree. That's an obvious contribution to the game that goes well beyond the wins and losses. Also, he coached at the likes of Washington State, one of the worst programs in history. Mississippi State most recently, despite recent success, last 30 years, one of the worst programs in history, one of the 10 or 12 worst football programs in the FBS. And then also, of course, at Texas Tech. He far outdistanced the productivity and success of those programs' legacies. That has to be taken into consideration. Okay, that's one standard that needs to be broken, the 60% mandate for a winning percentage for a coach. Number two, that you have to be a first-team All-American to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I believe that's still a rule. As of like a year to 2 years ago, that was still a rule. Had to be a consensus, first-team All-American. Ridiculous. In 2015, college football had these running backs: Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Zeke Elliott, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a few. Those guys can't all be All-Americans. Only 2 can be. There's 4 like all-time great players right there that all should be All-Americans. And especially since All-America status does not include really a look at the postseason. So again, guideline, was this guy an All-American? Sure, that adds to the resume, but not a rule. Our friends at CBS Sports have that same story with SABAN and MEYER headlining the College Football Hall of Fame ballot. Other than that, same stories we reviewed on Monday, so check out Monday's show because we looked at some of these topics here with the SEC mulling a 9-game conference schedule. I had much to say about that. Please check out yesterday's show. Also, the Big 12 schools and Brett Yormark. I posted another video about that last week. And then also the headline show from Monday, and then the ACC odds with Florida State favored pretty significantly at this point over Clemson and Miami. So again, folks, number one, are there particular sites you want me to use as sources for our headlines review? And number two, would you like this to be a live stream? Like the video, subscribe right here, The Voice of College Football, and we'll see you on Wednesday.